We're going to have a conversation about CSOs in Ghana and what they've been doing to complement government's efforts to fight COVID-19. The question has always been, yes, a lot of people are saying that government may be doing well, may not necessarily be doing so well, but what about everyone else involved? Because COVID-19 is affecting every single person across the world. And in Ghana, it's affecting every citizen, whether you're in the city or not. And so what are we all doing to support each other? At least for citizens, we've been told that we should continue washing our hands, we should wear a nose mask because it's a way of protecting ourselves, our family members, and everyone else that we may come into contact with. But when it comes to, the CSOs, they also have projects that they have started. And all these projects are supposed to create more awareness about COVID-19 and also educate people on things they need to do in order to protect themselves. And something was launched in April 2020. It was the COVID-19 Response Project. It was launched by Star Ghana Foundation, made up of a number of CSOs. And so we're going to be speaking about that to find out what exactly it is that the Response Project was launched for and how far they've come with that project and what we intend to do moving forward to even help fight this virus further. And so joining me in the studios, I have Teko Saba. She's the head of programs at Star Ghana Foundation. Good to have you. And happy holidays, by the way.
Same to you. Happy Founders Day.
Not easy to wake up on a holiday to come work, right? But it's fine.
I know, yeah, in the interest of Ghana.
Exactly, definitely. And also joining us via Zoom, yes, we're trying to socially distance ourselves, is Charles Kojo Van Dyke. He's the head Capacity Development Unit, West Africa Civil Society Institute. Good morning, and thank you for joining us as well. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, anytime. So first of all, before we even get into the various campaigns that Star Ghana Foundation has launched, what do you make of Ghana's management of COVID-19 so far? Teko.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bella. And just to start by saying Happy Founders Day to all Ghanaians across in Ghana and outside as we celebrate, those who led the fight for us to get to where we are.
Yeah.
I'll start by saying that I think there are pros and cons.
And cons, okay.
Some things have happened well, and we appreciate that. Others could have been better. So one of the things that has happened well is the fact that at least as early as March, we were aware of what was happening. And even if you go beyond into February, the Ghana Health Service, the Ministry of Health, had already put in place some protocols in advance of the virus finding us in Ghana. And I think that is a good one. A few of us had also started thinking about it. What does this mean for Ghana if it does get here? And even using Ebola as an example, to ensure that things were in place. You know that even around February to March, some organizations had already started putting in place some measures. So I think in that line, it's good. The things that could have been done better, I believe that it was about information sharing.
Okay.
Moving forward, there were a lot of things that the government was doing. Yes, they were sharing information. The president was coming out quite regularly. But there were a lot of questions. Okay. And you see the role that the media and civil society played in bringing out some of these questions for the states to rectify their protocols and to make that work better. Yeah. So I think it was in that line that civil society thought this is something that we can support the state to do to complement the effect, to complement the efforts of the state and make sure that at the end of the day, Ghana is able to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on citizens.
All right, what about you, Charles? And I would want to talk about West Africa in general because, of course, we've just touched on Ghana and what we've been doing, but also the conversation transcends the borders of Ghana. And so looking at West Africa and maybe the continent as a whole, how we've managed it so far, have we done a good job?
I think Teko, has basically, described it very well. I think in certain instances, yes. In other instances, not so much of a good job. I think a lot has been done by governments. You've seen government efforts, mostly in most governments, in terms of responding with issues of treatment and testing and tracing. Of course, every country has its unique strategy. Yeah. I think the challenge has been what I've seen across board West Africa has been a coordinated effort towards more intensive public education. I think that has been one of the biggest gaps in West Africa. But apart from that, I think most governments have tried their best to respond as effective as they can. I mean, it's a very, for many governments in West Africa, this is a new challenge for them.
Yeah.
But I've seen that with Liberia, Sierra Leone, who have actually gone through an Ebola pandemic before. I think that has helped to some extent with their responses.
Okay. And to think that the WHO also did warn that the African continent could become, the most hit, by the virus. And so there's a lot to be done.
Yes.
And I'm sure that a lot of African countries didn't expect that our numbers will rise exponentially like they have.
Yes. Let me just say that I think the African Union has stepped up. It was a little slow, but they've stepped up. Now they have an Africa CDC, Center for Disease Control, which is something new. We didn't have that earlier. And the head of the Africa CDC is doing regular, checkups. They are putting things out. And I think that is something that I would commend the African Union
Absolutely.
for. There's even now a fund. The African Union has set up a fund for citizens to donate, to be able to help countries that are not. And that is something that I think is bringing Africa together.
Yes.
And today as Founders Day, we can even talk about that.
Absolutely.
How we even helped, if you remember the apartheid struggle and how Africa came together. I think this gives us an opportunity for Africa to also rally around something so that what people have been saying about Africa, that there will be bodies lying in the streets, that will not happen.
Absolutely. And I guess that's where Star Ghana Foundation comes in. In April 2020, you launched the COVID-19 Response Project. What exactly was this project meant for?
Okay. So you would notice that when COVID came in March, there were a lot of uncertainties and unclarities, especially around persons who were vulnerable. So during the lockdown, we saw what happened with feeding issues and people not getting food and children not in school. So civil society thought that it was important for civil society to come out with something that would complement the effort of the state.
Okay.
So this one is in a complementary light. It wasn't in a, most of the things that we do where we are adversarial with the state. How do we support the state to be able to deliver social goods to the people that are needed?
Okay.
And so in April, Star Ghana, with support from UK Aid, came up with the COVID-19 Response Project. And this project was to ensure that we are able to, civil society supports, complements the state to reach out and also to mitigate the impact of COVID on citizens. And so we're working with several partners. We had 8 partners who are doing things on a broad range of subjects, from fact-checking on fake news.
Okay.
Because around that time, there was so much fake news.
There still is, actually.
There still is, some of the kiosks that are coming out, some of the things that people are talking about. So we actually collaborated with the Media Foundation for West Africa on a website called Fact Check.
Okay.
So that every information that came out, they fact-checked it
before
and shared that with citizens for us to know what was happening. We also collaborated with Caritas, which is the Catholic Relief Organization, working with the Ahmadiyya Muslims, working with the other religious organizations to bring out information. Because at the end of the day, they are religious because of the religious nature of our society and the cultural nature of our society. We thought that it was important for the religious leaders to lead the fight against COVID. And that is also working very well. Plus several other projects. Okay. One of which is domestic violence.
I see.
We know that in COVID, because of the lockdown, in many instances, domestic violence issues went up. Data says that it's 20% in Africa. The Ghanaian statistics, we haven't seen them yet. But all these things came together to give us a holistic project around how to support citizens and also mitigate the effects of
this is actually COVID. Very good. But at the same time, as much as you want to do so much good, you'll face challenges.
Yes.
And so I want to find out, what are these challenges that you may have faced, Charles? And if you can come in at this point to tell us some of the challenging moments in getting the response project to go as expected and, all that. What have been the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, we were operating in an environment of restrictions, and especially the time of the lockdown Greater Accra, Greater Kumasi. And so the aspects of the project that were about delivering essential services to disadvantaged communities, to vulnerable people in these communities. It was quite challenging at that time because, you had to maintain social distancing protocols, but there was such a huge need for food and other materials by these groups of people. So that was quite challenging. And then, of course, also the education, because, we needed to develop education materials into content that was relevant for the different communities in their own languages, and of course communicate it in a way that they will understand what this virus is about and the importance of protecting themselves and protecting their families from this virus. So these were some of the challenges. When you're working in communities, the greatest effect of that work is that you engage directly with people. And so, of course, when there's social distancing and other protocols, it presents a lot of challenges. Of course, we also tried very hard, to mobilize our own resources. That was led by the SDG platform. When we mobilized 120,000, Ghana cedis, almost that amount, from 78 organizations and actors. And try to get around to really get to the places where people needed them. And so identifying where the greatest need was and making sure that we're not duplicating the same work that the government was doing in those areas, making sure that the people who actually needed these essential services and materials and food were the ones that actually got them. Was also it wasn't quite easy, but we tried and we focused and we did our best.
That's actually fantastic. But at the same time, I also want to know, you talked about reaching the people as much as possible. How many people, in essence, were you able to reach and impact?
Yeah, I mean, you must understand that it was a huge demand. And so, I mean, if you look at what we were able to reach in terms of the essential food items, in terms of the food items, with that specific project, it was around 2,000 people. But with other projects that other members were also doing, if you look at the cumulative effect, we've reached about 30,000 people have benefited from all these programs put together. But of course, we've also done a lot of work in the media space with our education materials, conversations around this. And that has reached millions of Ghanaians, both on social media and, of course, mainstream media. So if you look, some of that work has been working with the NCCE. Some of our colleagues have been working with NCCE, and really to get to those places where people need to really understand what this virus is about in the peri-urban areas. And so I believe we've really we've gone quite far and wide, especially in the hotspot areas of this country.
At what cost is what I'd want to know, Teko? It must have cost a lot. You talked about receiving some support from some international organizations.
Yes.
How much did they have to cost Star Ghana Foundation to embark on this project?
So Star Ghana is doing a lot. The project is one, and that cost us around £800,000 for the 5-month period.
So let's come to cities for people who are a bit...
I think we...
in the millions.
Yes, thereabouts. But in addition to that, Star Ghana has been working with Parliament for a very long time. So one of the things that we did was to go to the Speaker of Parliament and say, how can we also bring Parliament into this picture? So we've done videos with members of Parliament speaking in their local languages, which they are sharing in terms of what you have to do to stay safe from COVID. In addition to that, civil society also came together on a platform called the CSO COVID19 coordination platform, which is a platform that is working around policy issues on COVID and bringing in a broader set of civil society organizations beyond just the Star Ghana partners to say, what are we doing on COVID and how do we also engage with the states on COVID? So some of these things are not quantifiable, but they are in terms of what we believe is important for civil society to be doing at this time. This is not a time for adversarial wranglings with the state.
Yeah.
This is the time where we come together to build the state. And I think that is what civil society is really, really doing and pushing at all levels of the work that we
And in so doing, how are we going to bring on board more stakeholders to also support? Because this is a very worthy cause.
Yes.
What are we doing to bring on board all these stakeholders?
Thank you. So this is one of the platforms that we are using to ensure that people know of the work that is happening. And also to know that it's not just the donors that are supporting it, but citizens themselves.
Okay.
So Charles was talking about the CSO fund, which is set up by the SDG Coalition. And citizens themselves are putting money into that fund to support their own brothers and sisters. So if you want to be part of that, the CSO COVID-19 platform, you can find it on Facebook, you can find it on Twitter, you can find it on social media, and you can donate into the fund. And that would be used to support our sisters and brothers who are not able to take care of themselves during this time.
That's interesting. She talked about partnering government, in order to fight against COVID-19. And so let's take a look at this video put together by Star Ghana Foundation on how they went about this.
It's a small bit.
So, maybe tena ku council de to do chelbon bono COVID-19 ma de nyana mo yeto kan ko bono ngare na kwajia te zan di mo zan ti doroma te zan le futanga anto won ka chebon be yen ay doroma ba ko yeda de kan de nyana di mo dune za ha de gleka nyefi sanga den dida de kazan bosse de zo te zan le jem de me zan nyana de ko jen la sapta te nyen no shem ka sapta to be te mama sane te dondonane te sambana ne be sakamza ka te to ku nyale de zo te zan le jem nyala be shaw to shel din nyala dum al balai pam nous autres ko pense sapta nous parbo ne tinye no chambo to zan bumbon be shaw sanitizer ma za tan pai kar to un pa partout nous nyala tam kam za ha kapte de te to ku nyang to nyang.
Akwai wasu matakai wanda suka ce mu bi game da wannan annoban yanda za mu yi mu kiyaye kanmu da wannan annoban. Kiyayewan shine mai sun ce muna mu kiyaye zama mutum wanda muka fi mutum 25 kuma an ce an bayan mun sadu ko mun taru za mu koma mu yi kokari mu wanke hannunmu da kyau kuma mu samu shi ruwan maganin da aka kawo yanzu mu duka muna kiran shi sanitizers mu share hannunmu. Sannan za ka yi atishawa in dai ba ka da shi ragan nan ko dai tishu to ka doki hannunka ka yi haka sannan kuma kana da tishu sai ka yi atishawan ciki ya so ka yar sannan kuma mu dinga kokari muna mu rufe bakinmu da shi abin nan da ake rufe baki ana ganin shi kowa mutane mafi yawa suna nima da na sa amma saboda ina nan ina magana yasa ban sa ba shi yasa a takaice abin nan mummunan annoba ne mu yi gudun shi mu doki matakan da za mu yi mu kiyaye ya so Allah ya kiyaye mu duka ina godiya.
And that's a collaboration between Star Ghana Foundation and parliamentarians in Ghana who were tasked to, tell their people how to protect themselves in their language because it's easier for them to identify with their members of parliament and also to understand the language in which they speak in. So I thought that was very brilliant. Is that an opportunity for citizens to also partner and also share messages like these or help in other ways?
Yes,
aside
actually,
the fund.
Yes. There's one of our partners, Pen Plus Bytes, and Pen Plus Bytes has set up a website, an interactive website that is open to citizens to bring in their issues so they can talk about whatever is bothering them around COVID, and they can share their stories. It's actually a very interactive website. It's also motion sensitive, so that persons with disability can also go on the website and interact. So it's for persons who are visually impaired, persons who have hearing challenges. They can all go on the website. And these are things that we have intentionally put into the project so that we do not continuously disenfranchise or marginalize the people who really need that information and who we should be doing something about. Absolutely. Let me just also add that we're also working with the Ghana Federation for Persons with Disability. And with that, we are working with some of their sub-organizations. And we are working with the Mental Health Fraternity around issues of depression. And for that, we've done videos from people who have survived depression, speaking about the experience within the COVID era as a means of giving encouragement for people who might be within that, that situation now, to be able to also get some response. So these are all things that we are doing to reach out to those who we believe are the most vulnerable. You know, the state is doing a lot, but sometimes some people who fall through the cracks. And this is what civil society then brings as a value add to ensure that everybody is able to mitigate the impacts of COVID and move on from there. Absolutely.
And I just want to find out, Charles, so just recently, just yesterday, we spoke to the Ghana Statistical Service, and they put out a report about how many people had lost their job, how many children were not gaining access to vaccinations because of COVID-19 related issues. Are the CSOs also working towards ensuring that, some of these kids are protected? Is there any particular program for kids in general so that they can also benefit from whatever resources that may be available for them as we fight against COVID?
Yeah, no, I think one of the things that we've been doing a lot is sensitization on how the virus has impacted various aspects of our lives. So, I mean, it's clear to everyone that this is a health crisis, but it's beyond a health crisis. It's a governance crisis. There's an education crisis. It affected people's living standards. Unemployment, of course, is rising. It's affected the economy. And so what we've been doing, we've been having a lot of discussions with stakeholders on looking at should the government then respond to some of these challenges, and looking at even beyond what we've been talking about, pandemic recovery. At that time, what needs to be done to make sure that our country, goes back to a much stronger footing. Yes, so there's been a lot of public discourse on, and most of the discussions, because of the limitations of physical gathering, they've been on social distancing. Because of social distance, we've been doing it via webinars. And so one of the things that we are even going to do, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, is a multi-stakeholder engagement. And so we've been talking a lot amongst ourselves as civil society, but we've realized that, look, in order to really make sure that this is a more coordinated effort, and some of these issues you are raising comes to the fore, we need to bring in other actors. So we're trying to invite government and the private sector, relevant government agencies in the private sector, to come and discuss some of these issues. What are their perspectives on the impact of COVID on our general life as citizens? How should we live, survive, but also thrive, within this pandemic environment? And there'll be a lot of discussions around those issues of education, around the issues of health. And remember, there are other health challenges, and you mentioned it, that we don't need to take our eyes from. And these health challenges are being affected because of the pressure of treating COVID patients. So these will form some of the discussions that we'll be having.
Okay, well, this is interesting. Final words, Terko, before we wrap up on this conversation. What do you have to say to anyone who's watching, anyone interested in supporting one way or the other?
I'll say that COVID is serious. We have to take it very seriously, and it's real. All the COVID protocols, we should try as much as possible to keep them and to observe them. For civil society, the work goes just beyond our work, but this is also about our lives. And so we are also putting in so much to ensure that citizens are protected. As I said, there are so many things that are happening now. You, as a citizen, you can support. If you Google Pen Plus Bytes website, there's a lot of information that you can get. Our partner, Media Foundation for West Africa, has the Fact Check website as well that you can go to. They're also working with radio stations across the country. So you can go into your radio station, but you can get that information online. You also go to your associations and organizations that you are with, and I'm sure that Star Ghana has a link to them, and we are able to support them. Your churches and your elders are also giving information out there, and all these things come together to ensure that we recover from COVID. And so on this note, we are happy to be here. Over the next few weeks, we'll be sharing a lot more of the work that we are doing with your listeners, online and also on this program. And then they'll also be able to interact with us. So we look forward to having a good conversation with you on that.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it as well. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Teko Saba is the head of programs, Star Ghana Foundation, and Charles Kojo Van Dyke is the head, Capacity Development Unit, West Africa Civil Society Institute. It's been a pleasure speaking to both of you. Keep up the good work. We're all supporting one way or the other to ensure that we eradicate COVID-19 from amongst us. And so this is COVID-19 360.